Hi guys, welcome back to Two Friends and a Bible, and thank you for stopping by and spending time with us again. Today we are starting a new series, and it's going to be the life and ministry of Jesus. So it's going to be taken from all four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. So I hope you guys enjoy this. And since we, in December, we did the true meaning of Jesus's birth. So we did a big study on Jesus's birth. We're not going to actually start with his birth. We're going to actually start when he is 12 years old. So we hope you guys enjoy this as much as we've enjoyed putting it together, because really we learn so much every time we put it together. It's like every time you read the word, you learn more. So we hope you guys enjoy it. And Flora's not going to be able to be with us today because her internet is out, and since she lives in a different state than me, it's a little hard to get together and do this. So she is going to be not on this video, but she'll be back on the next video. Okay, so anyway, I hope you enjoy this video. I hope I do okay with it. And there's nothing better than talking about God's love for us and his son who gave so much for us. I mean, I know Jesus would have died on the cross for just one of us, and not all of us. That's how much he loves us. And, instead he died for everyone, but he would have done it just for one. So that tells you how much he loves us. He loves us. We would appreciate it if you guys would hit the subscribe button, please, and check like and share the video. We would appreciate it. And if you want to get notified on any future new videos coming out, make sure you hit the notification bell. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so again, since we did the true meaning of Jesus's birth in December, we're going to start the study today on when he is actually 12 years old. And then next week, we'll move into his baptism with John the Baptist. The story of Jesus when he's 12 years old, you will only find that in the book of Luke. And that's Luke chapter 2, verses 41 through 52. The other three writers did not write about that particular part of his life. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and read you Luke 2, 41 through 52, and then we'll talk about it. Now his parents went to Jerusalem, and I am reading from the King James Version. Now his parents went to Jerusalem every year at the feast of the Passover. And when he was 12 years old, they went up to Jerusalem after the custom of the feast. And when they had fulfilled the days as they returned, the child Jesus tarried behind in Jerusalem, and Joseph and his mother knew not of it. But they, supposing him to be in the company, basically family members, things like that, and everyone that had gone together, they went a day's journey, and they sought him among kinsfolk and acquaintances. And when they found him not, they turned back again to Jerusalem, seeking him. And it came to pass after 3 days, they found him in the temple, sitting in the midst of the doctors, rabbis, both hearing them and asking questions. And all that heard him were astonished at his understanding and answers. And when they saw him, they were amazed. And his mother said unto him, Son, why hast thou thus dealt with us? Behold, thy father and I sought thee sorrowing. In other words, where were you at? We were worried. And he said unto them, How is it that you sought me? Wist ye not know that I be about my Father's business? And they understood not saying which he spake unto them. And he went down with them, and came to Nazareth, and was subject unto them. But his mother kept all these things in her heart. And Jesus increased in wisdom and stature and favor with God and man. So what's going on here is if you go to the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 16, verses 16, you will see where God instructs men what they are to do as far as going to Jerusalem. Okay, he instructs them that they are to make a trip to Jerusalem 3 times a year in celebration of either one of the following 3 feasts. It can be Pesach, which is Passover, or the Feast of Unleavened Bread. That's typically March, April. Shavuot, which is the Feast of Weeks. And Sukkot, the Feast of Booths. Those are one of the three that God instructs them in the book of Deuteronomy that they are to take passage to Jerusalem 3 times a year and to celebrate these. In Jewish customs, now remember, Jesus was Jewish and his parents were Jewish, and he was being raised as a Jewish boy under Jewish traditions. Okay, so in the Jewish customs, when a boy is around 12 years of age, he has memorized sections of the Torah, which is the law of God. And in our Bible, that's Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. It's the first 5 books of the Bible. That's the Torah. And so by the time he's 12 years old, he was to have memorized sections of the Torah. And then he will go into the temple with his prayer shawl around his shoulders, and he will recite in committal before his family and rabbi to become a man. And most likely, Mary and Joseph and his family have made this trip because they had to make one of the 3 trips a year, but also for Jesus to recite these sections of the Torah that he had actually memorized. And once a boy reaches the age, it's time for him to sit with the rabbis of the law where they will ask him questions. But in return, he actually was asking them a lot of questions. And so this is what was going on in the temple. But it went longer. From what I'm gathering, it went longer than a normal question and answer, because he was asking so many questions, and also because he was giving so many intelligent, enlightening, spiritual answers to the rabbis that they had never heard before. So, time just kind of slipped away, and parents, Mary and Joseph thought, oh, well, he's with, our other friends and family. Let's go on and go, and let's get going. Back then you didn't worry like you do now. So they just figured that's where he was at. And as they traveled a whole day, they got to a stopping point, and they're like, where is Jesus? Do y'all not have Jesus? And they're like, no, we ain't seen him. And then they're like, oh man, something's not right. We got to go back to Jerusalem. And so that's why they headed back to Jerusalem. And at the age of at 12, it's also time for him to take on the responsibility of learning on his own and not through his parents. So by this point, his parents have been teaching him all the Jewish customs, but he's 12 years old now, so it's time for him to learn on his own. And so when these doctors of the law were asking Jesus questions, they were amazed, just completely amazed at his understanding. And in return, Jesus was allowed to ask them questions. This was called his confirmation, okay? And Jesus astonished the rabbis and the doctors of the law with his answers, but again, with the questions that he asked him, which, honestly showed how remarkable of a mind he had, how remarkable he was, and how strong of a spiritual nature he had. And of course he did. Of course he had all this. He's God's son. Of course he did. But at the time, that wasn't known yet. He was only 12. And so, and then the part where Jesus said, did you not expect me to be here doing my Father's business? Some people will try and tell you that Jesus was being disrespectful to his parents by not leaving and staying in the temple like he did, and also for answering the question like he did to Mary. But however, Jesus is God's son, and it was natural for him to learn and to teach. And Jesus was also sinless. So obviously disobeying his parents deliberately would be a sin, and it's not possible. So that's not what he was doing. He just was becoming enlightened to who he was, and just enjoying hearing the teachings. And Jesus is the Word. He already knew all this, but just to hear it and to ask questions. So in verse 48 through 50, it says, and when they saw him, they were amazed. And his mother said unto him, Son, why hast thus dealt with us? Behold, thy father and I have sought thee sorrowing. Of course, this is Old English, so they're basically saying, what happened? Why didn't you come with us? We have been worried about you. And so Jesus answered, and he said unto them, how is it that you sought me? Would you not know I must be about my Father's business? So you can read it like, why were you looking for me? Shouldn't you have known I was about my Father's business? Yeah, that's not really, that's not how that's how people are interpreting. Some people interpret that, but no, Jesus is sinless. He wasn't saying it like that. He was like, why are you guys looking for me? Didn't you, I'm sorry, didn't you know I'd be here about my Father's business? Yeah, it wasn't like that. And so they understood not the saying which he spake unto them. At that point, they did not understand it. And I'm sure Mary and Joseph, they were worried sick over Jesus missing and not being with them. Jesus was likely a very easy child to deal with, and this was something they had never had to probably deal with before. Of course, this doesn't say this in the Bible. It's just a thought, and it seems kind of logical, right? That this is probably something they never had to deal with because, he's perfect. He's not going to be a disruptive child. He would have probably been a very easy child to deal with. So that was probably another reason for them to be like, what's going on? Jesus has never done something like this before, So we just kind of got to look at it that way. And again, it doesn't say that in the Bible. It's just kind of speculation, but it seems logical. And Jesus answered them, asking why they sought him. Wouldn't they know he was doing his Father's business? And like I said, some think that was a snarky remark, but no, I don't think so. It's not possible. It was more of a surprise, as they had been Jesus' teacher for the last 12 years. And he was there for confirmation. So why are they surprised he was there? No, this was a sincere question, and it was not snarky at all. Okay, so that's the first part of today's beginning of the study. It's part 1, and we will be continuing going further. We're going to keep these a little bit shorter. Next week, again, we're going to, there's nothing from Jesus's age of 12 until, of course, he's 30, and when he starts his ministry after his baptismal with John the Baptist. Now, we could go through and do some studying on Jewish traditions and what Jewish boys did from that age, but we're not going to do that on this particular study. But we do know he was a carpenter, so you have to know he continued his study in the Torah and the Hebrew Bible and studying the traditions and whatnot. And he would have continued, and his father Joseph was a carpenter, and we know Jesus was a carpenter. So I'm sure he was learning his skills from his father, Joseph, so that his earthly father. So that was, most likely what he was doing until it was time for his ministry to begin. And in the Jewish customs, rabbis usually started studying to be rabbis when they were 30. So that would have been the age of Jesus. Okay, so next week, like I said, we'll be talking about the beginning of Jesus's ministry at the baptism with John the Baptist. So again, thank y'all so much for spending time with us today. And I pray you learned a little bit in today's lessons. Please do not forget to subscribe, like, and share this video, and check out our other video series. We have a Revelation 101 series where we do not teach pre, mid, or post tribulation. What we teach is you need to understand what everything is in the book of Revelation. When John wrote the book of Revelation, he was on the island of Patmos. My son's coming in, sorry, the son. But he was on the island of Patmos under Roman arrest. And so he could not, I don't believe that he was able to say the things, he had to do symbolism. Like we know the dragon is Satan. We know the beast is the Antichrist, and then also the false prophet. You got Mystery Babylon. You've got the harlot. You've got the two witnesses and stuff, and if he had gone in and said, oh, well, Rome's going to be destroyed, well, and he's under Roman captivity, and he writes all these books or on the scrolls, and then the Romans take and look at it, and they see him saying the Romans will be destroyed or whatnot, Yeah, that's not going to go good. So that's why we kind of believe he wrote in symbolism. And so one of the things that we teach is we teach, who is the harlot, who's the two witnesses, who's the harlot, Mystery Babylon, who's, how do you know who is the actual true Antichrist, that kind of thing. And so that's what we teach. What are the seven seals? What are the seven trumpets? What are the seven bowls, the three woes, all that? Why is Israel so important, and why is Jewish custom so important? Okay. And then we also do a Daniel series, and we are teaching about the 70 weeks of Daniel. And what that prophecy means, okay, and how it led to Jesus. We did one last week on the 200 missing years from the Hebrew calendar. A lot of people think that the year is 5,783, but we show proof where there's 200 plus years missing, so it's more like we're in the year 5,993. And, there's a 6,000 or 7,000 year lifespan, and 1,000 of that is in the millennial. So we teach that. Then we also do Bible trivia. Those are really fun. Those are just something fun to do. They last maybe 10 minutes, and we give you clues to who a person is, and you get to guess who those clues are who that person is based off the clues we give. And some are harder and some are easier. Some, they're smaller, and so they're not as much information in the Bible. So it's harder to get a lot of information out there. So they're a little easier to figure out, but they're fun, and we enjoy writing them. So that is all today. And I appreciate you stopping by. Part 2 will be uploaded next week. We're also getting ready to do a series on the different religions, and we'll be uploading that probably next week or the following. So stick with us, and you'll get to learn all kinds of stuff. Maranatha, and you guys have a great day. Bye-bye.